Okay, Constantin, welcome back. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Great to be back, Christopher.
So we're in Haugesund and it's a special occasion. Can you let the audience know why are we here in Haugesund and why is it a big day ahead?
It is a big day ahead because we are celebrating the name-giving ceremony of our first dual-fuel container ship together with our partner NCL and Elkem. And NCL's headquarters is here in Haugesund. The vessel will trade along the Norwegian west coast, so it's all good reasons to actually celebrate here and to have a proper name-giving ceremony here in Haugesund.
Definitely. So just jump straight into the fuel discussion. Why methanol? What is the reason behind it? I know NCL has a similar deal with Yara, but they're going to go on ammonia. So is there an easy answer to the question why methanol for you guys?
The short answer is there's no easy answer. As always with these kind of things, decarbonization is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and you need to be agnostic. So I think to be exposed to different solutions is probably the way forward. I think methanol is one of the solutions, certainly in specific trades, and I think we have, discussed that with NCL for quite some time, and we are happy with having ships that are way more efficient, even if they don't run on methanol. But if they're on methanol, they are basically carbon neutral. So I think it's a leap towards making sure we're on the right track, we're on the right direction of travel, so to say. And methanol is one of the options. I would not rule out other options like ammonia either. But I think it's about taking a leap towards decarbonization.
So you're setting up sort of a new route, and maybe a good analogy is sort of setting up a bus route. You need people on both sides of the equation to travel something to the destination, but also back again. And can you explain how you do fix that equation? I know the long-term contract, the Elkem is a huge thing here, but just to let people know how you actually have to design these trade routes.
Yes, I mean, absolutely. It is I would say, a key trade route of NCL already. They have been very eager in their path to decarbonization to also offer green products to their customers, and Elkem being a key customer and basically a key puzzle piece. And I think it will be the first green transportation corridor on at least on the seaside in Northern Europe, and it needs more than one party because it's a lot of uncertainties still prevail, global compliance standards, regulation. So I think it was good to team up with like-minded partners, NCL and Elkem, and form an alliance that actually was able to put the project together. And that includes someone has to order the ship, that's us. Someone has to charter the ship, that's NCL, and a bit of a commitment, and it's actually not just a bit of a commitment, it's a long-term cargo commitment of Elkem. And I think that were the ingredients that were the foundation of this project in the first place. And I think that's very important because as we said earlier, there's no silver bullet solution, so you really need to have like-minded partners to move ahead.
To make this deal more traditional and more well used, do you think it is up to the partners to commit on those long-term contracts, or is that also a big ask for Elkem and sorts of to actually commit to those years? I mean,
it is an ask. At the same time, at least on this specific trade route, Elkem knows they have the cargo, others know they have the cargo. So it's a very, I would say, special trade to start with. I think it will be more difficult on the main lane, on the global trades where volumes go up and down, companies might shift production locations, etc. But in this case, I think it's a good combination of having also certainty about the trade and the volumes. And therefore, I think, yes, it is a long-term commitment, but at the same time, I think it's a win-win-win situation.
Definitely. So let's switch gears. You've been selling off vessels. I mean, people are afraid of the container markets ahead. Let's save that a bit, but why do you sell those ships right now? What is the thinking behind it?
Yes, I mean, first of all, I'm not completely concerned about the container market, to be frank. If you compare it with other sectors, it's still doing very, very well. Of course, supported by, the Red Sea closure. But selling ships now, we have been on a path to renew the fleet for the last 2-3 years. This is part of our fleet renewal, and fleet renewal means you buy ships, you sell ships. We want to buy more efficient ships, be it eco ships, be it ships that we can properly retrofit, or be it new builds like the NCL Vestland, which we are going to christen today. So for us, it's a continuous fleet renewal exercise. And one goal now is to also increase investment capacity because in uncertain times, the thing that you can control is your own balance sheet, meaning low leverage, high flexibility, and ideally enough cash to act on opportunities when they might arise, and also to weather any turbulences down the road, which you cannot rule out either, right? So in all fairness, the container market has some curveballs ahead, but so far it's keeping up quite nicely. But that's the reason why we have decided to sell a few ships, and I wouldn't rule out that we sell a few more, but we would also be on the buying side.
Makes sense. So last time we spoke, you said it's going to be a very hectic year. You had dry dock, you had retrofits. So some key highlights after having ships into dry dock. I know you invested in new technology, new innovations. Are there anything that you think is quite interesting ahead, like innovations put on existing ships to make them more efficient and stuff like that?
Absolutely. I think investing into the existing ships, I mean, you cannot just order new ships and solve the problem, right? I mean, it's a balancing act. And that's fleet renewal for us doesn't mean selling and buying modern ships. It means very much also investing in the existing ships. And last year we have done more than 20 retrofits, part of which were substantial. And with substantial, I mean bulbous bow, propeller, paint systems. So we have invested significant amount of money. Over the last 2 years, we actually committed $600 million into buying new ships, ordering new builds, or investing into existing tonnage. So that is a very important ingredient because the results are extremely good, I must say. We have up to 25% in fuel savings just from retrofits. So this is very significant, very sizable, and is also something that we do hand in hand with our chartering partners, actually.
So today is a big day, as we stated, but I think tomorrow it's a big day for the US administration. We have policies. I mean, there's a lot of debate. Is it just about negotiations? Is it actually been put into place? Chinese vessels is, of course, targeted here. How do you paint the picture on what's ahead? You're just going to analyze it and see what's happened, or do you see some very troubling stuff going on?
I mean, one thing is for certain, it will create disruption of global supply chains, and that is what will happen in any case. Now, will penalties or port costs or fines, will that be imposed? Time will tell. I wouldn't rule it out, but I would also not say it's guaranteed that it will happen. Looking at us, obviously we're looking at our fleet. We have around 25% of our fleet is, so 25% only is Chinese built, and of that only 4 ships actually go to the US. So we are not that much exposed, and in cases where you have a charterer and the owner, those fees are usually for the charterer, obviously, right? So it's port costs, so it's not with the owner. It will, however, create disruption. It will create a new pricing system. So it will not make life easier, to put it that way. And tariffs is another aspect, right? The moment consumption goes down, it's generally not good for container shipping. Having said that, shifting trading pattern, volumes going different directions, I think this will create disruption. And I think the biggest question for the container market is not the tariffs, in my view. It's the Red Sea situation, because that has, supported the market last year very, very strongly, is continuously supporting the market. So a lot of the let's say, future development of the container market is linked to that very external effect. And that's back to my point. What can we do? We can prepare ourselves for whatever is ahead, balance sheet management, being ready, and that's what we're doing.
Does that mean that, to calculate and forecasting, second and third order consequences is almost too hard of an exercise? So you control what you can control, and then, if you have a disruption, maybe the side effect or the second order consequence will be very hard to truly understand. So don't spend too much time. I mean, it's
impossible. Obviously, we are running many analysis. A lot of that is I would say in hindsight unnecessary, but it gives you a better feeling in taking decisions. And I think decision taking has to follow the route of not overpacing at this point in time because of all the uncertainty, right? I mean, the last year's geopolitical disruption has or uncertainty and turmoil has always supported logistics shipping, so car carriers and containers, to a lesser degree the other sectors. but that might not be there for eternity, right? So, I mean, we really need to make sure that we are prepared for whatever market is ahead, and that's the consequence.
Got it. So one story I read, which I thought was interesting, was that John Conrad, the editor of GCAP, said that to truly understand U.S. policy ahead, you have to think that they're basing it on national security. That's their lens. So while in Europe we think about economic growth, prosperity, but if you take the security lenses, maybe that's the right way of sort of interpreting everything that's going on in the U.S. Do you feel like security is one of the big pieces here from the US perspective, rather than only economic growth and maximizing profits?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it's also economic growth in the US. I think in Europe that has shifted quite a bit. And being from Germany with a lot of turmoil on the political landscape over the last months and years, I'd say, I think the security part will become a very dominating factor in Europe as well. And it has to, because all the things that have been a given in the past are not a given anymore. To the contrary, past allies are probably now behaving differently, so you need to make sure you can protect yourself. I think security will be a key driver for Europe going ahead, and that is very, very important.
Last time, if you remember, I asked you about German economy. I'm not going to ask you to break down the whole economy again, but you said a bit pessimistic on the short term, positive on medium term. Has that shifted with new administrations, or are we still following the same metrics? I
mean, I'm basically questioning my own statement in terms of what does short term mean, right? But I did say that I'm not sure that the coalition the government will actually survive, and it didn't, right? So we had new elections ahead of the time, which was something that I had expected when we talked last time. We're not quite there yet with the new administration. I think and I hope, and I'm knocking on this wooden table here, that they get the act together very, very quickly. But I think the short term will be a few more years, because in the end there are so many pushbacks for the German economy, and now the security aspect comes on top, which will require even more financial burden on the system in Europe, in Germany, because people need to invest into protecting Europe and their country. And that will happen. And that will be an additional burden, as I said. Let's see. Let's see. I think at least, in Europe, I hope that people will stand together more closely now. I'm positive on that. And that can and should translate into two things. Firstly, better protection, that you feel more comfortable as Europeans. And secondly, hopefully also stimulus for the economy.
What will happen with the bond market when Germany pushed the big button on defense and infrastructure and the yields? And do you think we will see some big swings going ahead, or is that also forecasting a bit difficult?
I wouldn't know. I think there will be so many other factors playing into that. If that was kind of the only aspect, then that will probably lead to some turmoil. But I think there will be many balancing effects as well, hopefully. And so I'm not sure about it. Look at the bond market today. The Norwegian bond market is crazy at the moment, right? It's very dynamic, many transactions, big volumes. But on the government side, it's a different story, obviously.
Yeah, and you just did a big obligation or
commitment. Yes, we did a 200 million bond where we started with 125 last year, and we just tapped 2 weeks ago. I think it's a good opportunity to increase your investment capacity going forward.
Yeah. If we take a broader lens from MPC Capital's perspective, what do you feel are the most interesting investment opportunities if you look at maritime in a whole and infrastructure? Because you're looking at a lot of things, owning a lot of things. How do you frame it? What's interesting going ahead?
I think, and we have invested just recently into the offshore survey and service vessel space. I would say in a bit of a niche, like the feeders have been a niche in container shipping. So we believe structural growth markets are interesting, and the offshore wind service, or let's call it offshore energy service market, is certainly a growing market, and there you can grow with the market. I think a lot of the other, let's say, usual suspects in terms of market segments, dry, tankers and others, are way more mature, so they have a different growth profile. They will grow steadily with ups and downs, but I think the offshore wind market is a market that will, at least in Europe, continue to grow, will need assets. I think it's a significant undersupply in the right assets, certainly the more flexible ones, and that's why we have invested in that space, and we do believe there's more opportunity there.
Definitely. So time is flying. So just another couple of questions. So we have a lot of listeners tuning in who are planning on becoming future leaders, future CEOs. You handle a lot of pressure, executing a lot of stuff. What is your best advice for new executives?
Be open-minded, talk to others. Don't make all the decisions by yourself. I think it's really about making sure you have the right discussion partner, you get impulses from external parties, have the right team. I think we have over the years at MPC built a quite diversified team of people with different strengths, different skills. So I think it's really listening to others. Eventually you have to take the decision on your own at times, but I think to at least get the input is extremely important. Mentally be adaptable, because things change so quickly. So a decision that has been right three weeks ago might be a different decision today. So you should not always, just keep the same pattern. You need to be adaptable, and that's, I think, over the last 10 years, the way the world has developed. Things go so fast. Changes come up, so you need to adapt to the world that you live in. And I think those are the two key recommendations I would give. Be adaptable and listen to others, and make sure you get good feedback and good input from others.
So that means that you're comfortable switching an opinion 2 weeks later. And there's no ego involved and said, okay, I said this, but today I've changed my mind, facts change, I changed my mind.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you need to have a certain frame, right? I mean, you have a direction, and at least that's the way we have also built MPC container ships. We have a direction, people know what to expect, but if there are curveballs ahead and if there are big disruptions in the market, you need to make sure you do not just follow a path because you have followed it the last 10 years. You need to be adaptable. That's my point.
I think one key insight which I got from an interview with Adam Draper, who is a VC investor, he used this analogy to tennis. And I know you also love tennis. And it said one of the biggest mindset switches is to, when you start playing, you're sort of avoiding to lose. But to switch the mindset to playing to win, and actually, going for the winners, that's a mentality shift you need to have in business as well. Because if you're new, the obvious thing was to not make mistakes and sort of avoiding to lose. Do you think that's a good mentality to have, playing to win rather than avoiding to lose?
I think at times you need to play to win, and at times you need to play not to lose. And I think in this market environment, it's probably a bit the latter, because, I mean, a mistake can have severe impact, right, in a volatile market as it is today. But if you are, for example, if the market is low, like in 2017-18 at MPCC, we play to win, right? We went, I wouldn't say all in, but we went strongly in. And now it's really about balancing out, changing gears from maybe being a bit more active and observing the market. I think it's really a matter of assessing the time in which you are in, the market environment, and you need to shift gears in both ways. But trying to win, at times, certainly the right thing. Trying not to lose, at times, also not a bad advice.
Perfect ending. So Constantin, any final reflections? It's a busy day ahead, but anything you look forward to this year or want to share with the audience, or is it just keep building?
No, keep building. First of all, I'm looking forward to the naming ceremony today. It's going to be exciting. The weather is nice here in Haugesund, which I was told is not a guaranteed scenario. So I think we're very happy with that. We're very happy to celebrate with more than 100 people here, partners, friends, other guests. So it's going to be exciting. So focus on today, and for 2025, every time I foresee what will happen in the year, things come different in any case. So I'm looking forward to 25. I think we're well positioned, and it's going to be another good year.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time, Constantin. It was a pleasure to host you.
Thank you, Christopher. All the best.